Hi, welcome to my channel Cerberus Sticky Notes. Here we are going to look into those points which we thought simple but they are powerful too. Let's start our journey together. Let's move on to today's topic. So, today's note or today's session is about Ajax. By hearing Ajax, you might have got a questions. You might have got different questions in your mind. Those are the main four W's. Okay, the main four W's. What are these four W's? What, when, why, where. These are the four W's that commonly arise regarding a question. If you are having a question, four W's that comes in your mind are what, when, why, where. So let's understand it by each W's. First is what. What is Ajax? Ajax, it's a set of web development technique. Okay, it's a web development technique basically. So what is our first question, right? So what a web development technique? Okay, technique. So some might have a doubt. Okay, I am new to programming and whether I will be able to learn Ajax language, right? So friends, here is a happy news for you. Ajax is not a programming language. Okay, it's a web development technique. So it is very much easy to understand that and to learn and to work on that. It's very much fun and it's very much interesting. I can say it is very much interesting to work in Ajax. Okay, so what we have answered, it's a web development technique. Then when is the next question that we have, right? So when this can be used. For when, let me take a scenario for first. Okay, so I am having a UI page. Okay, and I am having a Java service. Clear? This depends on you whether these both are different. Means you are having HTML page inside the file explorer and Java service inside Spring Boot or Eclipse. Okay, or both can be inside a single application. Okay, so these two scenarios, it just depends upon you completely. Now, for my case, it is inside a single application. Okay, so we are having both these cases. You are having a UI page, you are having a Java service. Now, I need to pass pass some data to Java service. Okay, service and get response. Okay, I need to pass some data to the Java service side. Okay, suppose if you are adding a text box inside the UI page. Okay, then inside the text box you have added my name, which is Cerberus Sticky Notes, my channel name. Okay, and you are having a button inside the page. Then when clicking on that button, I need to pass the value you have provided inside the text box or the input type text From there, you need to pass that value to the backend service. Okay. At that case, or in addition to that, after passing that string to the Java part, then append that string with hi, welcome to my channel, then the value what we have passed. Okay. So in return, you need to get hi, welcome on to my channel, the Cerberus sticky notes. Okay. So in such cases, like where you pass the data and get the response, we use this Ajax calls. Okay. Now, why? While answering the when question, okay, while answering the when question, I have already answered the why also. So when you need to send and retrieve some data, you use the Ajax call. Okay. Send and retrieve data. Okay. You use Ajax call. Then why this or how this become a point up, or why this become more important in corresponding to other types is Ajax, we can send and retrieve data asynchronously. Why this asynchronous? It's a big term. By hearing, it's a big term asynchronously. But the meaning is very much simple. Without affecting that page or reloading, refreshing multiple times, we are getting the response. That is the word asynchronously. Okay. So we send and retrieve data asynchronously. Okay. So asynchronously we are sending and retrieving data. Okay. Sorry, the spelling is wrong here. So asynchronously. Asynchronously means without affecting the page. Okay. Again refreshing, reloading the page again and again. Not like that. When we send the data, we get the response and we display it on the page. It is not affecting that page, displaying the page or the display. We are not affecting that display. Okay. It is not getting refreshed to get the response like that. Okay. That is asynchronously. So why, what, when we have used where. The next question is, sorry, the next question is where. The interesting question, the last and final interesting question, where. JavaScript. Okay, Ajax called mainly the first step for UI development, or wherever you are using some script to call the backend service. Okay, it is used in HTML, JavaScript part. It can be used inside Angular where service is called. Okay, and wherever the service is getting called, backend service is getting called, we can use Ajax. Okay, so when calling the backend service. Okay, so whenever we are calling the backend services, Ajax come into the place, which make it more easier and very much interesting technique to call the backend services. So we have answered the four W's, the main big W's, four big W's. What are those? What, when, why, where. What is Ajax? It's a web development technique. When this can be used? You are having a UI page, you are having a backend service. User or myself is requesting to get some data from the backend, or to get some data with the data what I have passed from backend. Okay, at that time we are using where or why. We are sending and retrieving data. There are different methods, but we are sending and retrieving in a asynchronous way, where asynchronous means it is not reflecting the page, or it is not affecting that page. Okay, we don't need to refresh it again and again, or reload the page again and again. We are sending response and we are getting the response. That's it. Now, where when calling the backend service, whenever we are calling the backend service, whenever we need to call the backend service from the UI page, we can use Ajax. Simple, right? So now it is simple, right? Now we have understood what is Ajax. About Ajax, we have understood. Now let's move to the implementation. Okay, which is okay, which is more interesting. Okay, so okay, let's move on to the implementation part for now, which is the very much interesting part. Okay, I like to call the services from through Ajax calls. It's very much interesting. Okay, now let's move on to that. Okay, on the implementation part, the other thing that we need to understand is the type of request that we are passing through Ajax. You know, the most common type of request that we are having in backend part is the get and the post. What is this get and post? Some might have a confusion or clarification need to be there for this get and post. Okay, so first is get and the next is post. So get, from the word itself we are having this. Okay, we are calling the service and the service is giving the response. We are not passing any particular data for that. Okay, we are calling service, get the response. We are not passing any particular data especially. Okay, but post, here also calling service is the same, but in the service call we are passing some data. Okay, so we are posting some data to the service and getting the response based on the data that we have posted. Okay, so this post, to make it understand, we are calling the service and with some data. Okay, with some data we are calling the service. Actually we are posting that data to that particular service. Okay, then that service will process and will get response based on that service, based on that data we posted. Okay, so post is very much simple. We are having some data. Okay, we are passing that data inside the post call in Ajax, and that data is passed to the get. Clear? Now, sorry, I have make it as get. It should be post. Okay, we are calling a form. Suppose we are calling a form. We are having an HTML form. Okay, it can have radio buttons. It can have checkboxes. It can have multiple input types. Okay, now with all this data, we need to pass to the post mapping or the post call inside the Java service. So all this data will be passed. All the data from the input, all the input types will be passed to the Java side. Clear? Now based on the data that we have sent, we will get the response. Okay, so we are sending some data, some call with some data. We are calling that particular service with some data, and based on the data we have sent, we are getting the response. That is a post. Clear? Get and post, very much simple. Get, we are calling a service, we are getting the response. We are not passing any particular data. Now, post, we are calling a service with some particular data, and based on the data we passed in the service, we get the responses. Clear? Clear regarding the calls, the request mapping types, get and post. The mainly used are these two. Okay. Now let's step into the implementation side. So we have come to the implementation part. Yes, we have arrived at the implementation, which is very much interesting and very much simple also. Okay. Now here the three things that we need to note, okay, is whenever you are using a Ajax call, you need to add the script, or you need to import the script which is inbuilt. Okay, it is inbuilt script which enable us to do the Ajax process or Ajax calls. Okay, for that you need to add the highlighted script tag. Okay, which is https ajax.googleapis.com ajax libs jquery version jquery.min.js. Okay, this is a library which enable or which gives us the access to call the Ajax functionalities. Okay, so without this, if you click, then it will give an error. So that because you are calling Ajax without the libraries present. If you have a doubt, what is this library, what is this, and all, let me explain with a Java example. So here you are having a sorry, sorry for the pause. Here you are having a controller class, and as you can see, you have auto wired the page service class. Okay, so you need to call that particular class functionality inside this. Okay, for that, what you have done, you have done the at auto wired. We have imported this annotation, right? Which is over here, which is highlighted here. Same case, we have imported this page service also, right? Which is imported over here, which is highlighted, right? The same case for calling the Ajax call, you need to import. This is a library which is imported here. In simple words, we can say like that. This is a library which is imported to make the Ajax call functionalities available in this HTML file. Okay. So without this jquery.min.js library, we can't have this Ajax call working. Okay. So this is the first thing that need to be noted. Now, the second thing, the script. Whatever the function you are calling, you need to mention it inside the script. Okay. So we are having a function call over here, which is highlighted now. Now, inside this, you are having the Ajax call. This is Ajax call. Okay. So before the Ajax call, whenever I am calling a URL, I prefer to do like this. I declare a variable URL with the URL inside a string type that I need to call. So this is a URL that I need to call inside the Java service. Okay. So I declare it inside the variable URL. Now let me go to the Ajax call here. So this is basically the Ajax get. Only this 6 to 7 lines are there for the Ajax call. Okay. For get. Now let me add this, or let me explain how each term is. So URL, this is the URL that we need to call. So URL we will be calling the get data type. It is a get type. Okay, it is a get request. Now on success of this call, whether the call got success, we need to print the response in the console. We are printing it inside the console. So it is not mandatory that always you need to print it inside only the console. Okay. It is also, there is also another way through which you can display the data inside the page. That is our motive, right? So to do that, we are using this line. Okay. The highlighted line we are using. What we are doing is we are passing the response to the page. Okay, so this document.getElementById, then inner HTML are all the JavaScript terms which makes the user easier to do the processing inside the page. Okay, so here in this line, what I am doing is, in simple terms, what I am going to do is we are passing the response to ID to ID RESP. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are passing the response, whatever we are getting from the service, to the ID RESP. Clear? I am not going in depth of what this or element by ID is, inner HTML is. If you need any clarification or further advanced video on the same or of any of the other topics, please let me know so that I can include inside the next videos or next upcoming videos. Okay, please let me know through the feedbacks or the comments section. Now this is a basic get call, only this thing that I need to do. Okay, so I am in the HTML, I am having a form. Inside this a button, only a button is present, so this is a button style. Okay, now I am calling on click, I am calling this function. Okay, this function need to be called, then only that get process will happen, right? So this function call we will be calling. Now inside this, let me refresh this page. Okay, okay, sorry, because I have not started the application. So let me save this class or HTML page, then let me run the application. Okay, you have already seen the output when I go to the page, but let me run and show you the output. Okay, there is one more thing which is hidden which I need to show you. Okay, so on the page, come to the page. When you refresh this page, it will be only with an icon search with a blue background. Okay, suppose here is one more tip for you. Okay, if you need to change the color but you don't know the color code. Okay, now comes the tip for you all. Let me do right click, inspect. Okay, here what you can see is you can see the complete code over here. Okay, see, you can see the complete code, right? So when you click on this arrow mark, okay, when you click on this, it will redirect you to the particular page. Okay, particular tag wherever the style has given. So this is a button which is blue color, it is highlighted. So on the right panel you can see the particular background color and color is white. Okay, so when you need to change this color, okay, just click on the square box, then color picker will open, from which you can select the color. Okay, this is a tip for you all. Okay, it's just a tip. You can use the console to get to check whether the data is coming or not. Also, the same console you can use for one more case. Inside the console, here the response will be coming. Okay, now in the sources, okay, the complete code will be coming inside the data. So my page is data. Okay, where I don't know whether you have watched my previous session. So if you have not watched my previous session, please go and watch, because in this part you will get a confusion where how this data came. Okay, so I have already created a file in the previous session. In the same file I have updated the code. Okay, so in that file what it is happening is we are having all the content over here. So In the same case, how we are debugging in Java, you can debug it inside the HTML also. Okay. So how we can do that? This is a breakpoints. Okay. So when you click on this line, okay, this 14th line, I need to know whether I am calling this web or the post mapping or the get mapping, whatever the mapping it is, where I need to know whether this URL is assigned to the variable. So let me put a breakpoint here. Just click on that, then breakpoint will automatically on that line with this blue tag. Okay. Now I need to know whether this inner HTML is printing or not. Okay. Like that, you can add the breakpoints and test the HTML code also. Okay. This is another tip. Now let me close this window and let me click on this. Then you can see the text hi welcome is coming from the backend service. Okay, so our get call is working as expected, right? So let's move on to the post method now. So the next and the last type is Ajax post call. Okay, so as I have mentioned for post also, for every Ajax call we need to include this library. Okay, to enable the Ajax functionality inside HTML code. And now the post call. For post call, the only thing additional what we are having is we are passing the data inside the request. Okay, so we are passing the data inside the Ajax request. Here, what I am going to do is I am passing a name inside my form input type text. So I have added the input element here. Okay, so I have added the input element here. Added input element here. Okay, so I have added the input element here. Okay, so now the next thing is, as I have added the input element, now I am having an ID for this my name. Okay, I need to pass this my name to the service set and get a response and print that response inside the HTML page. Okay, so the value of this input type text can be fetched using the ID my name. Okay, that is what I have done over here. This post call, the first line of this post call, where data I am assigning the value of my name. Okay, I am again using get element by ID. So my name value I am assigning to data. Okay, now what I am going to do is I am passing this post data in a variable JSON string dot colon data. So while I am passing the data to the backend, the data will be like JSON string. Okay, sorry, I'll comment it then. Okay, so JSON string colon whatever the data value. So inside this data, we are having the value whatever we have entered inside the input type text of ID my name. Clear? Now, this JSON string I am passing. Okay, this will be the post data. So, whatever will be inside post data is JSON string colon data. Now, the URL. Okay, URL. Then it is a type of post. Then URL. Then this URL will get called. Then data type JSON. So, I am mentioning the type of data what I am sending is the JSON request. Okay. Now, the content type. So application slash JSON means the data what I am passing to the page or the request what I am passing is of a JSON request. To make it a JSON request, we are using this stringify. So to make the data into JSON, okay, into JSON type, okay, JSON, we are using this. So we are JSON.stringify. So we are passing this as a JSON type. So we are using this method to convert this into a JSON stringify format. Okay. So JSON stringify the post data. So whatever the data it will be there, it will be passed as a string of type JSON. Okay, so it is converted. Now I am passing this data and passing this data to the function call, and once I get the response, I am passing the response as data here. Okay, so you can change this data to a response. Okay, but the only thing is when you are changing this, wherever you have used that data, you need to change into RESP. Okay, so I am just using data again. Clear? Okay, so on function on success, it will fetch the response which is data and pass this data to variable response. Okay, and this response will be passed to the inner HTML variable where id is resp post. Okay, resp post. So wherever the id resp post is there, so that value, whatever the response we are getting, that is passed to that particular tag. So this is a paragraph tag. Now we are passing that response to this paragraph tag. Okay, so whatever the error we are getting, I am consoling that. Okay, this same error console can be added to the get call also. Okay, so after the success, you can put the comma, then you can put the enter, then you can paste the error function also. Okay, that is not a problem. I just mentioned like that only. So you can add the error also. Okay, so let me save this code and let me run this application. Before that, let me elaborate the console. Now let me run the application. Okay, now the application is getting started. See, our application started successfully without no warnings, without warnings or error. Our application got started. Now let's go back to the browser and put like local host. This 8054 is another application, so 8055 is current port. So 8055 slash data. Okay, this is a controller path where the HTML template is there. So let me put the enter. Now you can see. Okay, let me zoom it out then. Okay, now you can see you are having a text field where you need to pass the text name. Okay, so I am just providing my name itself. So Jitin. Okay, now let me click on this button. See, hi, welcome. New subscriber is Jitin. So whatever the data you are passing over here, I am passing to the backend and appending this data to a string new subscriber is. Okay, this is already a string present over the backend service, and I am passing the data which I am passing here to the backend service. Okay, clear? Now this is a post request. Okay, so both get and post are clear for you, right? Now let's summarize for today's session. Now let's summarize for today's session. Okay, now let's move on to that.